Hello again, fellow audiophiles. I am Wave Theory, back again to bring you another headphone review, and today that is going to be the original Focal Clear. All right, so let's take a look at that one. But as usual, some housekeeping items. If you like what I'm doing here with these sound reviews, please like and subscribe to my channel and be on the lookout for how you can continue to support me going forward so that I can continue to do this kind of thing. All right. Why review the Clear OG, the original Focal Clear, the one that was released back in, I don't know, what was it, 2016-ish, somewhere in there, maybe? All right, why talk about that one? Well, the bottom line is even here at the end of 2021, this headphone at $1,490 is still a force to be reckoned with. All right, it is, just to kind of give the bottom line, like this is still a very technically competitive model in the middle of the $1,000 range. Call it like the $1,400 to $1,800 price range. Like this one is still right in the thick of it, both technically and in terms of listening enjoyment. So it is absolutely worthy of consideration for as long as it is still available for sale. And also, there are used models of these floating around. I have seen them go for, $750, $800, something like that. And if you can snag one at that price, that is worthy of a lot of consideration, in my opinion. So let's talk briefly about why. All right, so as I said, originally this was $1,490 when it was brand new. It still actually lists for that price for brand new in the box units. Most of the places that I just looked up on the web. There is a $990 open box deal going on, I believe at headphones.com right now. I am not affiliated with headphones.com. I'm just letting you know that that price is out there, and if you can get this under 1K, it's a deal, so that might be worth checking out. Now, I don't want to spend a ton of time on build quality and all of that, because here's the thing, it's a Focal, all right? It is well built, it looks like a Focal, it feels like a Focal, it has all of the Focal build traits, which means good, all right? It is solidly built, quality build, it is comfortable, all of that kind of stuff. So we don't need to talk a whole lot more about that, I think, because I have talked about Focal build in a lot of other Focal reviews. It is also easy to drive. It has that M-shaped dome dynamic driver in it. It's, I did not look up the impedance or sensitivity. Sorry about that, but it is easy to drive. I can plug it into my DAP, runs just fine. You can power it with just about anything, really. All right, so that it's got that going for it too. So let's talk about the sound and jump into that. Okay, the overall signature, I would say, is neutral bright. It is fairly well balanced, almost flat through most of the frequency range with a little bit of elevation in the treble, so that I would call this a neutral bright headphone. However, it still has excellent bass extension, okay, pretty deep all the way down there. I mean, it does roll off in the true sub bass, but not all that much, really, okay? And I don't notice it a whole lot during music. There's still a lot of nice low-end rumble there. And then also the classic Focal physicality is here. That punch and that slam is very much a thing that is part of their house sound, and it is here. All right, and then the bass is also very detailed with excellent pitch definition, good articulation, and some pretty good texture for the price point as well. And so that texture also just leads to the general point that the resolution on this headphone is very good. It was very good back when it was launched. Again, I think around 2016. If that's not right, feel free to correct in the comments, but it's been around for a few years now. Okay, but anyway, its resolution was excellent then. It's still excellent now. I think it is still very competitive with the $1,500-ish headphones that are out there right now in terms of resolution still. All right, the Focal staging is here, meaning that the Soundstage is kind of that 360-degree bubble around the head, right? But it's also not small. It's a little bit bigger than some of the other Focals that I've heard, like a little bit bigger than Radiance, I think, bigger than Elex, that sort of thing. I want to say, I did not get the opportunity to A/B this directly, but I want to say the Soundstage strikes me as being a little bit bigger yet than Stellia. Okay. Sorry if that's not right. I'm going from memory on that one. It just, the soundstage size stood out to me a little bit more, not as being overly big, but just being a little bit bigger than I expected from other focals that I have heard. But still, again, that it's still that kind of that put your head in a bubble sounds going on all around you. Then imaging and separation is quite solid. Again, very, very good, very competitive for the price. Like listening to a Neil Peart drum fill walk across the soundstage, like there's just good, separation and imaging and placing those drum sounds and the space in between those drum sounds, and that sort of thing. It's not quite as strong in the left, center, and left, right. So, I mean, my left, my right, and then center. In between those two things, left, center, and left, right, there's still some good information there. It's not quite as coherent and filled out as the more expensive headphones that I have been reviewing on this channel recently, but it's also still pretty solid. Okay. All right. Driving this, I said it's easy to drive. It's not super amp picky that I can tell. Like I have driven this with my Hugo my KN. There it is, N6II DAP, my Cord Hugo 2. I powered it with my Asgard 3 for a bit, my Vioelectric HPA V281. I plugged it into my KN HA1A Mark II tube amp as well, and a Lake People G111. It sounded quite good on all of those, so it scales well with the quality of amplifier and source gear. So it has the resolution and the chops to let you know when you're listening to a higher quality amp, but it also still sounds really good even on like the lower end models there. They mentioned like the Asgard 3. It was just a really solid sound on that. It does not change its frequency response moving from amp to amp as much as its replacement model, the Clear MG. I thought the Clear MG changes frequency response, particularly its mid-range presence, a lot when you changed amps. This one does a little bit, but not nearly to that extent. Okay. The weaknesses on the sound here, as I mentioned, the staging and all that, if you like the effect of the soundstage, it's pretty good. The imaging and separation, pretty good. Resolution, very good. The physicality, the macrodynamic punch and slam and all that, excellent, okay? Those are all really good features of the sound on this. The timbre, in terms of sounding lifelike, there have been complaints about this one on it having a metallic timbre in some of the treble areas, and I think there is some merit to that claim. I noticed that a little bit. Some cymbal crashes and that sort of thing can just kind of have a metallic-y flavor to them a little bit. I did not find that to get in the way very often, but it is there. The mid-range does have a little bit of forwardness to it here and there. It can tend towards shoutiness a little bit. Not nearly as bad to me as the Clear MG does, but it is there. It is non-zero here and there. Now, the trade-off with that is like snare drums and all that have this nice, tight, quick snap to them that's really presented well, but when that translates to like vocals, there is just a little bit of emphasis on those ow kinds of sounds. Those ows, the ahs, like those kinds of things are just a little bit too forward here and there. Not a huge problem, but it's there, right? So that is one thing that Focal I have found, and I have listened to a lot of Focals now, that I have found they just are not always the best at natural timbre. They have a couple of models that do it well. Radiance is great. Utopia is really strong in that area too. But outside of those, this one probably on balance is one of the better ones. Like I think it has overall better timbre and tonality than Stelia. Okay, for example, but it still, I would not say, is one of the strengths of this headphone. It's not terrible, but it's not great. Okay, so there, I mean, those would be the two big drawbacks I see on the sound. Is like the mid-range is just a little bit too forward in the shout region here and there, so you get a little bit of shoutiness, and then the timbre is not horrible, but, you know, they get a little bit of metalliciness in the treble here and there, and yeah, that shout can wreck the timbre in the mid-range a little bit here and there too. Okay, but those are really not huge problems. Overall, for someone who is sensitive to that mid shout that I mentioned, I still very much enjoyed listening to this headphone like 99.8% of the time that I listened to it. It's a very good, very solid headphone. Okay, put that in contrast to the review I did of the Clear MG. I did not like the Clear MG. In my opinion, the Clear MG took some steps backward from this one. So let's talk comparison there. Clear OG to Clear MG here for a moment. Okay. The MG takes the already impressive macrodynamic punch and slam of this one and takes like another half step with it. Like it's a little bit even punchier and slammier yet than this one. And again, this one's already got quite a bit of punch and slam to it. The MG is also a little bit warmer in its signature, yet it also has a little bit more air up top, way, way up in the treble. So it's both a little bit more airy in the extreme high frequencies, but then a little bit warmer, a little bit more emphasis in the warmth range. But I also found the MG to be yet more mid-forward than this one, while also at the same time not being as resolving in the mid-range. Okay, and so the MG was shoutier, didn't resolve as well in the mid-range, and then if you're one of those people who suffered from it, like it had that 19-ish kilohertz peak that can give some people some vertigo-like symptoms and all of that. So, in my opinion, the MG, even though it does present a slightly different sound, is a step backward in overall technicality over this one. I would definitely choose this one over the MG if it were my money, and that sort of thing. And I tend to like warmer signatures more than neutral bright ones at that. So that one just doesn't do it, or at least doesn't do it well to my ear. So then, I mean, what can we say then about the Clear OG as far as like it is still competitive, even if you get it for $1,490, it's still technically competitive with the other headphones in that $1,400 to $1,800 range, I would say. So I'm certainly not going to fault anyone if they still want to buy one brand new in that price range. It's still right there, a model to be considered, I think. Okay, I have this one in here too for review. This is the Elex, the collaboration between Focal and Massdrop, or now Drop, okay, which sells for $700 list price usually. It's on sale on occasion for like $600, I think, okay? But, so this one brand new is $700, and I think it is an E-Lear driver, if I remember right, with clear pads on it. These two, I want to talk quick comparison of the two of them. Now, I have not listened to the Elex as much as the Clear yet, so these thoughts are not 100% fully formed, but I think they're useful and valuable nonetheless. Like, these two actually sound quite similar. Their signatures are close. They are not identical. Like, this is not a carbon copy of this signature-wise, but they are definitely more similar than they are different, okay, in that. Now, this one is still technically better. Like, that was noticeable. It has better bass extension, has a little bit more grunt in the true deep sub bass. But they are, and this one is also more resolving, and the Soundstage is a little bigger. Now, Soundstage size is not inherently a marker of higher or lower quality, because Soundstage size is very much a preference thing. Okay, but even so, this one is a little bit bigger sounding in its stage than this one. And then I think the imaging and separation are a little tighter on the Clear as well. So outside of that, they have about equal punch and slam and physicality. Their staging, again, is similar. Their imaging and separation, this was is better, but like the way they do it and the way they present it is similar. So again, sonically, they are very similar. This is just a more refined, higher technical level than this one. Plus, you get a little bit more bass extension and rumble with the Clear than with the Elex. Now, the Elex is an excellent headphone at $700. I don't want to take anything away from it. It is nothing to sneeze at. But what I do want to say is that because of their similarities sonically, a thing that you might want to think about is if you are in the price, looking for a headphone like in the upper hundreds price range wise, and you're looking at the Elex, if you can find a clear OG for under $1,000, is it worth, say, that $300-ish price range to just save your pennies a little bit longer and jump to this one? Yeah, I think so. Okay, I mean, if you can get this for $1,000 or less, I think you're just straight up getting a steal, right? And so that needs to be considered. So again, nothing against the Elex. It's a fine headphone, and warrants serious consideration at its price point. This one, if you can find it for under $1,000 or in the upper hundreds somewhere, just takes everything to another level. And so I think if you can get one used in good condition and not too dirty, like one thing that happens is like this gray, the pads and the headband can get kind of filthy looking when it's used. Just an unfortunate color choice there. Like, if you can find one in good condition and reasonably clean in the upper hundreds, then yeah, I think you need to consider that strongly if you are considering the Elex. All right, so there are my thoughts on the Clear OG and how it compares to the MG, favorably, I would say. Okay, and then also how it compares to the Elex. So also be on the lookout for my full Elex review to come in the near future, hopefully. And then, if you remember, I had a Focal headphone comparison shootout that I did, I don't know, a couple months ago now. Okay, maybe that was back September. It was early in the channel, anyway. And since then, I've heard yet more Focal models, including the Utopia, this Clear OG, the Elex, and all of that. So I will circle back and have yet more thoughts on like the Focal lineup, okay, after I get this one reviewed and that sort of thing. So be on the lookout for that as well. All right, so yeah, I am Wave Theory again. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and until next time, enjoy the music.